All right, guys, so if you are watching this, hopefully you're in my physics class and you are looking at this with me. And this is kind of a new thing we're going to try this year. There's a lot of research behind it. So when you go, and most of y'all are college bound, so when you go to college, you're going to be in classes, and a lot of teachers are going to have PowerPoints, which is great. They're going to give you a blank sheet of paper, and you're going to be responsible for taking notes for that entire lecture. And staring at a blank sheet of paper, trying to remember notes for an entire lecture can be kind of hard. So we're going to start with something this year called Doodle notes. There's a lot of reasons behind what we're going to do. So I'm going to explain those first and kind of explain a little bit about the brain, and then I will show you how Doodle notes work. So while you're watching this, you can see Miss Neal is kind of coloring in this exclamation mark purple, and I'm talking. You can't see me in the background, but I'm here, and I'm talking while I'm filling this in. So our brain has two different parts, and I'm going to go down here to this picture of the brain. So we've got a right hemisphere and a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. And all of us have heard things before about the different hemispheres of our brain. And you're either left-brained or right-brained, and you're more creative or you're more logical or things like that. So your left brain, if you're more left-brained, you tend to prefer things. I know there's a really bad glare. You like words, logic, numbers, like 1, 2. You're really good at math if you're left-brained. You're really good at reasoning, reading, and writing. You succeed. Usually left hemisphere people are your people that succeed at school. They're bookworms. If everyone's ever called you a bookworm before, they like to read. They're good with numbers. They're very logical. Right-brained people are your creative people. So right-brained people like color. They're good with music, art, spatial surroundings. They're creative. They like to design. They're artistic. They think outside the box. So you aren't necessarily left-brained or right-brained. You're somewhere in between. Most people tend to use one side of their brain more than the other, but they're not 100% one way or the other. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to attempt to integrate both halves of your brain to make your note-taking abilities a little bit better. So when you move on to college, okay, that's Miss Neal's horrible drawing of an easel. When you move on to college or you go into the workforce or anything like that, you can take notes and do a better, more effective job at taking notes. So we're going to do something called Doodle notes. So Doodle notes are when you actually get the chance to doodle and draw while your teacher talks. So you'll be presented with a page of notes that's blank, kind of like this one when you saw it at the beginning of class, that has some words on it, but mostly just has pictures and drawings. Doodling actually engages your mind just enough to stop you from zoning out while still being able to remember the information. In multiple studies, it's actually been proven that people who doodle or draw while they're listening to a lecture, or who sketch pictures of the lecture, who draw lines and make remarks and things like that on their paper, actually have a higher retention rate of up to 29% more than people who just listen. Now, I'm sure at some point you've taken a learning survey style in psychology or something like that, and the teacher has told you that you're an auditory learner, or you're a visual learner, or you are a kinesthetic learner, meaning you like to write things, or you like to do things hands-on. And the truth is, no one person is 100% any of those styles. Every person is a blend of all of those styles. And the brain can get overloaded, meaning even if you are a kinesthetic person, if all you do is kinesthetic learning, eventually your brain's going to get overloaded and it's going to get bombarded. And instead of taking those memories and making them and converting them into long-term memories, which is what you need to learn something, you need long-term memory, it just dumps it somewhere. And then when you go to recall it, your brain can't find it because it doesn't remember where you dumped it because you were overwhelmed. So some of the benefits to this, before I completely explain the whole thing, are that it improves your focus in class. It improves your attention to detail. It gives you a more energized attitude. So instead of being dull and drained by the end of class, you should feel a little bit more energized. It increases your ability to retain the information, which is a really big one. You'll retain more information and learn more. It actually relieves stress. So believe it or not, instead of getting stressed in class, hopefully it will relieve some of your stress. And it helps to increase your neural connections. So let's talk a little bit about what I'm doing. So Miss Neal, right now, I'm coloring the right hemisphere while I'm lecturing. I'm coloring the words right hemisphere because right hemisphere is what the creative part of our brain is. So in my mind, that part of the paper should be a rainbow. Rainbow seems more creative. And left hemisphere is numbers, it's logic, it's books. So I drew the number sign, a book sign, and logic sign. And if I were going to color this in, I would color this in all one color because it's kind of boring. It's all one thing, right? So there's my left hemisphere over there. So let's start to talk about how to fill these out. And I'm going to guide you through them the first few weeks, so there's no need to freak out, just like this one. So there's two hemispheres to our brain, which we already learned. We said there was the left hemisphere, which is in charge of numbers, logic, and books, and the right hemisphere, which is your artistic side. It's your visual side. Maybe for some of you, for visual side, you might draw like an eyeball. Like an eyeball is visual to you, so you could draw like, an eyeball right here, if that's what will help you remember the word visual. There's a piece in the middle that binds both sides of your brain, and that's where your neural connections cross over or go from one side to another. And this piece in the middle is called the corpus callosum. CORPUSCALLOSUM. So that corpus callosum is what allows information to go from the right side to the left and the left side to the right. The more you use Doodle notes and the more actively you group your notes like this and include pictures, drawings, the more connections you build across the corpus callosum and the more likely you are to remember. So the corpus callosum essentially is a bundle of nerves that runs down the middle of the brain. And there's your corpus callosum right there. Oops, it's hard to see. There we go. All right, so most of your core subjects are mostly left-brained. 90% of your core subjects are left-brained. I mean, let's think about it. Unless you have art, most of your classes are math, history, science is all of the above. Science is so left-brained, it's unreal. Math, history, I'm trying to think of other core subjects. I can't right now, sorry. The only time you'd be taking a right brain class would be if you have band or anything like that. So when we add color, doodles, and embellishments, we're incorporating that right side of the brain. And the communication between both sides of the brain at the same time across the corpus callosum. I'm a horrible speller, y'all. I'm sorry. Activates our brains more fully to help us maximize data. So, things it can help with. It can help with concentration. It can help with memory, focus, learning. It can help with stress. It can increase your energy. Remember I mentioned that earlier in the PowerPoint? It can help you pay attention. Problem solving. It increases your problem solving abilities. In physics, that's going to be really important. It can also increase your coordination. A lot of times they say really smart people are really clumsy and really dumb and really awkward. There's a reason. It's because one side of their brain is developed more than the other side of their brain. You need both to be coordinated. So we're going to balance both of our hemispheres this semester. We're going to balance this creative, artistic, pretty sunshine and rainbow side of our brain. We're going to make it even to this logistic, book-driven, knowledge-driven side of our brain. We're going to make them 100% equal. Last thing I have to say about this is this little box down here. So visual memory actually triggers and sticks in our brain. So when we use color in a vocabulary word, when you make something a different color than the rest of your page, so I'm going to write visual memory triggers stick in brains, and I'm going to draw an arrowhead with a little brain here. Haha, it's stuck. It actually helps you to remember it more. That way, when you're studying for a test or trying to learn things, instead of learning the whole information, you can just learn a picture. And they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a picture truly is worth 1,000 words. You can remember the picture and the artistic drawing and coloring that you had. You can remember the concepts and the ideas. I've used this technique all through college and it has served me really, really well. So there's a reason we're taking these weird notes this semester. I promise I'm not just doing it because I like to draw and I like to doodle and I like to color. I hope you get as much of them as I do. And as you can see already, if you don't have pens, markers, and colored pencils, you're going to need a variety of pens, markers, and colored pencils in order to complete your notes that go with the lectures. So that's all I have for today. And I hope you have fun finishing your doodle notes. Turn them in when you're done. It's okay for today if they look just like mine. That's 100% okay for today. That's what we're working on this semester. So as we go further and further in the semester, hopefully we will be able to make more and more different embellished doodle notes. They won't all look the same because what you're thinking about and what triggers your memory might not be the same thing about that triggers my memory.